Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this episode 3691 AN. Today's date is July 23rd, 2025, and the title of the episode is Central Bank Globalist System is Over. Trump ready to eliminate capital gains tax on homes. Let's talk about protecting our wealth. Presenting My Digital Money, where retirement grows and stays safe. Experts say you'll need $4 million to retire comfortably, and with inflation rising fast, even $100,000 a year is now considered low income according to MIT. So how do you get there? Bitcoin may be the answer. It's already surged past $111,000, and top analysts say it could reach $300,000 to $1.5 million by 2030. That's the kind of growth that can turn $100,000 into $1 million in 5 years. But don't just grow your assets, protect them. With My Digital Money Crypto IRA, your Bitcoin grows tax-free and is secured in military-grade, military signature cold storage, keeping your assets safe from online security threats. Even better, your holdings are segregated from business operations, so there's no commingling and you never are treated as an unsecured creditor, unlike other platforms. Go to mydigitalmoney.com to get started. Grow it, guard it, own your future. Or just click the link in the description. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, they are losing control every single day. And soon, Trump's parallel economy will be much, much stronger than the Federal Reserve. And the deep state players, they will not be able to do anything about it. And we could see already that there are countries, corporations, they're already starting to realize that if they continue to manufacture in the different countries, and if these countries continue with the tariffs that they had, their entire business goes down the drain. The country will be destroyed. And you could see that a lot of the countries now, they're coming to the negotiation table. They're negotiating with Trump. And once again, you have to remember the United States has all the leverage. And when you look at like the automobile manufacturers and other manufacturers, they moved their manufacturing plants out of this country because they wanted cheaper labor. Now they're starting to realize that with these tariffs that are in place, it is hurting their business. And they have to make a decision. Do we stay in these other countries or do we move back to the United States? Now, most of these manufacturers, they're going to make the decision sooner or later to move back to the United States because they will have no choice whatsoever. And we could see this with GM already. Remember, Ford builds about 80% of their trucks and cars here in the United States. GM only builds about 50%. They build the other 50% in like Mexico and other places. And GM, it looks like they're having a very difficult time. They've reported their second quarter earnings, and it surpassed analysts' expectations, even as the automaker absorbed a $1.1 billion hit from tariffs. But it also warned about a coming steeper impact from tariffs moving into the second half of the year. In a letter to shareholders, the CEO, Mary Barra, emphasized GM's resilience, stating, to strengthen its domestic manufacturing base and reduce import exposure, GM announced a $4 billion in new U.S. factory investment in June. The plan will expand capacity by 300,000 units across key margin models, pickups, SUVs, and crossovers at plants in Michigan, Kansas, and Tennessee. They're realizing that they can no longer build in Mexico, in South Korea, and many of these other countries because, again, going back in time, the globalist system benefited these countries. It gave the manufacturers an open market to the United States with no tariffs whatsoever. Now, Trump is negotiating deals, and those countries that aren't negotiating deals, they're being hit with a very, very high tariff. He is evening the playing field for the new system, which is going to be the people's system. And these corporations right now, they have to make some tough decisions. And it looks like GM most likely will come back to the United States. Ford will most likely continue to build their vehicles here and probably move a lot more back to this country. And a lot of other manufacturers are going to move back to this country because they have no choice. The central bank globalist system, it is over. And now Trump is shifting everything to the new people's economy that he's creating right now and is getting more and more powerful every single day. And this is why, in the end, we're not going to need the IRS. We're not going to need the Federal Reserve. we're not going to need any of this. And this is why the Trump administration, and Election Wizard put this out, has cut about 25% of the IRS workforce with buyouts and firings, slashing nearly 26,000 staff members. Now, this is just the beginning. Yes, it would be great if Trump just came in and just wiped everything out. But again, would the country be able to operate? No, it wouldn't. So you have to do this slowly. You have to make sure that you don't crash the system. You have to make sure the government is funded. But slowly but surely, as time goes on, you're able to shift everything away from the private with central bank system. And remember, the IRS was created to collect the taxes from the people to pay for the interest. Because remember, we borrow the currency from the Federal Reserve, and the people must pay that back. So they needed a mechanism, or thugs, to go around and collect the money. Soon, we won't need the thugs. We won't need the IRS to do any of this. Because why? Because the money's coming in from external sources. They will no longer steal our wealth. You'll be able to keep every single dime that you make. And I do believe in the end, when people experience this, when people see this, this is a complete and utter game changer. And the people are going to be very, very happy. Now, of course, we have to get there. And you can see Trump now is removing a lot of taxes. He's looking at the capital gains tax for homes, which we'll be getting to in just a sec. But you could see right now, he's still hitting Jerome Powell very, very hard. Because again, every day that passes, the United States is losing trillions of dollars. And by not lowering the rates, we're hurting a lot of different markets, like the housing market. Trump, he put this out on Truth. He said the following: housing in our country is lagging because Jerome, too late Powell, refuses to lower interest rates. Families are being hurt because interest rates are too high. And even our country is having to pay a higher rate than it should be because of too late. Our rate should be 3 points lower than they are, saving us $1 trillion per year as a country. This stubborn guy at the Fed just doesn't get it. Never did, never will. The board should act, but they don't have the courage to do so. And again, he's pointing the finger at the Fed, letting everyone know that the Fed, it's absolutely worthless. This is why the other day they just said, hey, does anyone know what these 24,000 people do? What does the Fed actually do? And I do believe the calls to audit the Fed are going to get louder and louder and louder as time goes on. And eventually, when the Fed resists, Congress is going to have to make a decision, and they're going to have to vote on auditing the Fed. Now, again, can we do this with the Congress that we have today? Yes, we might have the majority, but we don't have the control. I do believe once we win the House, once we win the Senate, and Trump puts all his people into place, all those people that he's endorsing. Let me ask you a question. Are you looking to shed some pounds for this summer? Well, a recent study found nearly half of patients following popular weight loss trends quit within a year, often used lower than prescribed doses, and ultimately lost less weight than they were led to believe. This is why I use this secret amazing new product, and I'm obsessed with the results. It is designed to naturally support my body's own GLP-1 production and boost levels by over 50% without drugs, prescriptions, or needles. It promotes the feeling of fullness, reduced cravings, reduced my hunger hormones, helps me lose fat instead of muscle, and supports healthy blood sugar levels. Summer is here. It's time to get that beach body ready. Grab yourself a bottle of GLP-1 now to save up to 44% only at trimwithx22.com. Plus, you also get 2 free ebooks titled The 3-Week Diet and 53 Fat-Burning Smoothies and Milkshakes. Once again, this offer is only available at trimwithx22.com. That is trimwithx22.com, or just click the link in the description. We'll not just have the majority. We will have control of the House and the Senate, and all the rhinos and all these people will be completely and utterly gone, which means we will have the ability then to audit the Fed, to review the Fed. You think Trump would sign something like this? I think absolutely. Now, what's very interesting is that the fake news, they continually push the idea if Jerome Powell was fired or if he resigns, the markets would drop like a rock. And what's very interesting, there was a fake report, and Kalishi put this out, which was circulating that the Fed chair officially resigned. And this was going around from a dozen different sources. I mean, it's all fake. But you know what happened? The market didn't move a single percentage. Like, nobody cared. So when you look at this, was this a test to see what the markets would do? Maybe, maybe not, but nobody really cares. So basically the markets, they're cutting through all of this noise And the fake news is trying to convince everyone if this individual, Jerome Powell, steps down or he's fired, markets are going to go crazy. Well, it doesn't seem like that's really going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen because once again, people are looking at the situation. They're looking at what Trump is saying. They're looking at what Powell's doing. And people now are saying, something, Trump is right. Powell is wrong. And remember, the Federal Reserve never does anything to benefit the people. All they do is implement their policies to enslave the people over time. And all those countries that are now negotiating with Trump, who are trying to hold off, who are trying to push back, they're just going to destroy their own economy. Kobisi letter on X put this out and said, the European Union is planning on imposing a 30% tariff on U.S. goods if no trade deal is reached by August 1st. What do you think is going to happen when the European Union imposes a 30% tariff on the U.S.? Trump is just going to say, okay, well, that's 30% more for you. And what do you think is going to happen to the European Union? They're going to suffer. Now, they might reach a deal. Maybe, maybe not. But again, they don't have the leverage. And yes, they can say a lot, but again, actions speak a lot louder than all these different words that they use. So we'll have to see how this all plays out because they already know that if they raise their tariffs, Trump is just going to raise the tariffs here in the United States, which means they're back to where they were. And actually, they're in a worse situation now. Let's see how this all plays out. Now, when we look at Canada, we could see that Trump is waiting for a specific period of time with Canada. This is why he's not attacking Canada, because I think what he wants to do in 2026, because this is when he can renegotiate the USMCA, I do believe he's just waiting for that and letting Canada just suffer until we hit that point. So Trump right now, he's waiting for the USMCA timeline to trigger a renegotiation. Trump is ambivalent to the trade partnership with Canada, and he doesn't really care at this point because, again, he wants to renegotiate the USMCA. So the USMCA is set to expire on July 1st, 2036, 16 years after its entry into force on July 1st, 2020. Unless all three countries agree to extend it for another 16-year term, a joint review is scheduled for July 1st, 2026. In July 2026, during the scheduled joint review of the USMCA, the United States, Mexico, and Canada can discuss and potentially renegotiate aspects of the agreement. The review process allows the parties to assess the agreement's performance and address any concerns, while the primary purpose of the 2026 review is to confirm whether all parties agreed to extend the USMCA for another 16 years beyond its 2036 expiration. So I do believe Trump at this point, he'll actually say, I'm not happy with this. We need to renegotiate it. And I do believe this is what he's waiting for. And during this period of time, you're going to watch Canada. They're going to go into a deep economic recession. Because again, remember, they need the United States. We do not need Canada. And with these tariffs in place that Trump have already placed on Canada, you're going to see Canada going to start to suffer. I wouldn't be surprised if Canada decides, something, we can't wait for July 2026. We like to do something now because we're really hurting. I do believe Canada will probably go into an economic recession and they're going to suffer. And the people of the country are going to say, enough's enough. What are you doing here? Remember, they tried to tax the digital communications. It's the same thing with the EU. And guess what happened? They backed off because as soon as they did that, Trump said, okay, I'm just upping the tariffs on each one of these countries. And they said, oh, crap, that's not going to work. Remember, Trump has all the leverage. The United States has all the leverage. Everything before Trump came into office, it was designed to benefit all the other countries. And these countries cannot operate on an even playing field. They would struggle to survive. And they know this. And this is why Trump is evening the playing field because, again, this doesn't benefit the United States the way the globalists had everything set up. So now everything is being done for the new parallel economic system that he is now building. It's getting stronger and stronger every single day. Trump, he put out two truths in regards to tariffs, and he said, I will only lower tariffs if a country agrees to open its market. If not, much higher tariffs. Japan's market are now open for the first time ever. USA businesses will boom. He said, I will always give up tariff points if I can get major countries to open their markets to the U.S. Another great power of tariffs. Without them, it would be impossible to get countries to open up always zero tariffs to America. And he just made an incredible deal with Japan. And this is what Trump put out. We just completed a massive deal with Japan, perhaps the largest deal ever made. Japan will invest, at my direction, $550 billion into the United States, which will receive 90% of the profits. This deal will create hundreds of thousands of jobs. There has never been anything like it. Perhaps most importantly, Japan will open their country to trade, including cars and trucks, rice, and certain other agricultural products, and other things. Japan will pay reciprocal tariffs to the United States of 15%. This is a very exciting time for the United States of America, and especially for the fact that we will continue to always have a great relationship with the country of Japan. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And once again, their market is open. They're still paying the tariffs. The United States is now benefiting. And again, you have to remember, the tariffs take effect August 1st. This means the bill comes due for all the other countries that have not negotiated with Trump right now. And a lot of these countries, they're probably going to try to weather this storm thinking that, hey, listen, we're not going to negotiate. We can get through this. What they're going to realize very, very quickly, that they can't get through this. And again, they should have made a deal earlier on, because as time goes on, the deals get worse and worse and worse for all these countries. So you're going to start to see that a lot of these countries, they're not going to be getting such great deals like all the other countries, and it's just going to be worse for them. Now, once again, we know the deep state players, the globalists, the central bankers, they're trying to force these countries to hold out, but in the end, they're all going to fold, and they're all going to make a deal with Trump, or they'll just keep paying the higher tariffs, and they won't be able to function in the end. But let's see how this all plays out. This is going to be very, very interesting. And like we said from the very, very beginning, as Trump creates his parallel economy, and as it gets stronger and stronger and brings in more and more currency, it allows him to compete with the Federal Reserve and allows the United States to wean ourselves off the Federal Reserve and remove all the taxes that have been put into place. And we can see the latest thing that Trump is now doing. He's considering eliminating capital gains tax on houses. And again, we don't need all these taxes. The only reason we have these taxes, the only reason they want to track everything that you do, they need to know where you're spending the money, is because the currency that you have is not yours. You're borrowing it from the Federal Reserve, and the Federal Reserve wants to know where the currency is because they want to collect their money. It's almost like a loan shark. I give you this money. This money's not yours. You're borrowing it from me. And I'm going to make sure that I know how much you have, where you're spending it. And in the end, I want my money back with interest. That's exactly what's happening. This is why they like to spy on the American people. This is why the banks sometimes report to the IRS, because they want to know where the money is. Now, the founding fathers, they never wanted it to be this way. They wanted you to keep all your money. They didn't want any of the people to pay taxes on the money. They never wanted us to borrow this money. The money that you have is yours to keep, just like the land that you purchase is yours to keep. But as of now, even if you pay off your land or you pay off the house, you still have to pay taxes over and over and over on the same property. And if you don't pay your tax bill, is the property really yours? No, they take it from you. So do you really own it? No, you're actually kind of renting it from the government, aren't you? In the end, all of these taxes must be removed. And the only reason we have higher and higher taxes on all these different things is because the system breeds corruption. And when you have a lot of money to play with and you don't have to keep track of anything and there's no checks and balances, you just keep raising the people's taxes. That's all you keep doing because there's no accountability. But if you have a system where you just can't borrow and you have a finite amount of money and you have to account for everything because you just can't borrow some more to cover what you lost or you laundered, well, everything changes. And Trump right now, he's confirmed that he's considering abolishing the capital gains tax on houses. He says, we're thinking about that. So this is very, very interesting. And Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, she actually put out a bill where it says no tax on home sales. And I do believe that we need to eliminate not just federal capital gains tax, but we also need to eliminate property tax and a lot of the other taxes, which I do believe is going to come because, once again, the structure that is in place right now is in line with the private Western Central Bank system. The new structure, we won't need any of this. And the U.S. government, they impose a capital gains tax on the sale of homes. Tax rates for long-term capital gains, residential properties held for more than a year, depend on income and range from 0% to 20%. Capital gains on homes owned for less than a year are taxed at the same rate as your ordinary income. There are exemptions, with current law allowing homeowners selling their primary residence to exclude home sale profits of up to $250,000 for individual tax filers and up to $500,000 for joint filers. And once again, I do believe as Trump builds the parallel economy and he gets stronger and stronger and stronger and he's able to compete with the Federal Reserve, he's going to be removing more and more taxes as we go along because, again, his entire objective is to remove the IRS. He said it during a press conference that we would like to get rid of the IRS completely because if you're having the External Revenue Service, you no longer need the IRS. And if you don't need the IRS, that means you really don't have the Federal Reserve anymore, which I do believe in the end, the Federal Reserve is going to be restructured into the Treasury, and we will no longer have a mechanism to just borrow currency that was created out of thin air. So I do believe everything is about to change. And Trump now, he's doing it very slowly, very carefully to make sure that he doesn't destroy the system that we're in today. And I do believe once the parallel system is up and running fully, it's strong, it's competing with the Federal Reserve, we're going to start to see Trump make additional moves, especially after we take control of the House and Senate, because then he can move at a very, very quick pace to remove the Federal Reserve, remove the IRS, and put us on his new system. And I do believe that is where all of this is headed. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.